welcome back. Now, we heard from a pretty ambitious cluster up in the north before the break, and now we're going to meet another cluster which is aiming even higher. Whereas Europe wants to be the world's first climate-neutral continent by 2050, Grenland is working to become the world's first climate-positive industry region. That is no easy task, but they have, fortunately, a roadmap to navigate by. And they're more than happy to share that roadmap with us. And the one guiding us through this roadmap is Irene Siljan Vestby, who is cluster manager at Green Industry Cluster. So give her a warm welcome.
Thank you. Thank you to Eyde Cluster for having us here today and for being very positive to collaborate on our common challenges ahead. Being the largest industry region of Norway, it's necessary to have high ambitions when it comes to the reduction of emissions and development of green technology. We established Industrial Green Tech at the end of 2018 with the ambition to become the world's first climate-positive industrial region. This means that we as a region are working not only to reach zero, but to go beyond that and ensure that the activities of our industry in sum removes more CO2 or climate gas equivalents from the ocean or the atmosphere than they release. This is the ambition and the focus areas of our cluster. We used 2019 to seek out projects and tasks suited for collaboration and have experienced that it's a definite risk of getting lost in pursuing all challenges and possibilities at once. So we engaged at the beginning of 2020, SINTEF, the University of Southeast Norway, and Periti to lead a roadmap process with a goal to map out our possible path and to be specific about in which directions we need to direct our efforts. As a part of this roadmap process, we also carried out a special analysis for mapping of side streams. So we started that for circular economy purposes. CCU, we looked at that, and transportation of goods in the region. We had some delays due to COVID-19, but the reports will be finished very soon and they will all be available to download from our website. The CCU report is already published. From this figure from the roadmap developed by the National Expert panel showing emissions and reductions for the Norwegian industry has served as our reference for our region. There is a global movement to reach the point of no emissions, and we think that to stay competitive and secure the jobs in the industry, we must act fast to take part in the business opportunities that will rise from getting there early. Our regional roadmap process has included many discussions on how to measure and how to compare between companies that take different factors into account when they're calculating their footprint. We have agreed to use the greenhouse gas protocol. It lists in scope 1 all direct emissions from the activities of an organization. In scope 2, the indirect emissions from electricity purchased and use. And in scope 3, all other indirect emissions from activities of the organization, both upstream and downstream. We, in our roadmap process, have started measuring emissions from scope 1, but we will continue to work out a measurement form and hopefully collect data for all 3 scopes for the region. And we aim to have a life cycle analysis for all the members of our clusters moving on. We're also cooperating with the regional authorities in order to make to use this as a basis for a regional climate budget. It's not a lot of time, 10 minutes to present our roadmap, but I've included a couple of figures, not so easy to read everywhere, but you can read it in the roadmap when it's published, from where SINTEF, USN, and Periti sat down with all the large process industry companies, looking at their strategies and their identified possibilities. And our roadmap shows their individual path to reduce their emissions. This is for Ineos Rafnes. The next one is for Yara, a bit more complex, as you can see. And we do have this for all the companies. Together, it's quite a list of long list of measures that we're going to have to work with as a cluster and for the companies. And this figure shows how these specific missions... Can I move here? No, I can't. I'll point. The figure on the right shows how we're going to gradually reduce the emissions, the total emissions for the region. And the table on the right, which is published in the roadmap, it shows the type of measures and the specific measures for each of the companies. It also shows the estimated effect in reducing the CO2. So some of the major contributors, not so easy to see just from here, but it's CCS from Norcem. It's a big contributor, and it's hydrogen production from water electrolysis at Yara. And it's also reducing more of the nitrous oxide emissions from Yara. The CCS at Norcem will also spur activities, CCS activities for the other companies of the region. So it's really important that we get this on the road. The CCS will also open up for bio-CCS, which is truly a climate positive measure. Now, our challenge is that even if all the companies, they do need to commit to doing all these activities, the big projects, even the less profitable ones, and even if they do so, there is still 450,000 tons that we need to get rid of. This is the figure that we're going to work on moving on, and it shows that the identified measures of our companies, which will reduce about 80% between 2050, are largely energy efficiency, hydrogen, electrification, CO2, reduction of CO2, and also CCU, electrification. And we're starting with scope 1, partially scope 2. But even if we do that, we need to recognize that if we want to be in front and reach zero by 2040, there's a lot of technology that is not yet invented or available that we need to rely on. We also need to work with the companies to get a lot of the measures done more quickly. So this is an illustration that we do have some challenges ahead. To sum it up, we need to be working on both climate neutral technologies and climate positive technologies moving on. These measures that you see here are all known to all of you, or at least most of you, I would guess. And there's a lot to be done here, and we cannot do it alone as a region. We depend on collaboration with European and Norwegian companies, the funding agencies. We need the Norwegian politicians to be alert and help us get there as fast as we can. We, as a region, we've done a lot already. The companies have done a lot already. We have come together as a cluster. We're a member of SPIRE. We will apply to become a hub for circularity that we saw before today. We're in a dialogue with SPIRE about that. We will address these topics further. We have launched an industry conference which will take place, if COVID lets us, first week of November. We will invite you all to be a part of that. And to stimulate innovation, we have also just launched Industrial Green Tech Award, recognizing companies that work towards the goals of reducing emissions. Mind you, we are accepting nominations for that before September 1st, so I hope that some of you will be inspired to nominate someone you know that deserves that. And we look forward to working with the Eyde Cluster, the ACT Cluster, on these common issues in the time to come. Thank you.
Thank you. Social distance, you know, Irene.
That's right,
yeah.
I am sure. That's right.
Thank you very much. When I was listening to you, I was thinking, wow, this is a huge task. And you mentioned you will still have a gap of 450, you said 450,000 tons?
Yes, we have 2.4 million today.
Yeah.
So we will reduce a lot, but I think looking 20 years ahead, it's quite possible that there's new technology coming before that. So I think it's realistic, but we really need to be on the move.
Do you think it's going to be your members in your industry region who will invent this new technology that is needed?
Some of them, yes. Some of them will help invent it, but I think this is a global task because there are a lot of like we saw Aspire today present a lot of the identified technologies that need to be developed. They are the same across Europe. So we need to make larger consortiums to do this together, and it's going to cost a lot of money. So I don't think our companies can do it alone. I don't think we as a region can do it alone.
You've been here all day, and you heard the discussion earlier on this morning between the politicians. Were you optimistic or pessimistic after that discussion in order to reach your own goals? For support and funding from them?
A part of the cluster's activities is to work with politicians. I have heard a lot of them speak, but I think there is definitely more awareness, but it's our job to make them more aware and to push and to give them more knowledge about where we need to direct our efforts. So the more knowledge, the more mapping that we can bring in, it will make them do a better job. So yes, I'm optimistic. I think they're getting it, but I think we're already a bit behind. If we want to get ahead, the politicians also need to step up.
You mentioned CCS as an important part of the solution, and with hydrogen, we've been talking about that for some time, and CCS even longer, which was supposed to be our big moon landing, etc., some time ago. We've been waiting for a mature solution within CCS for quite some time now. Are we getting there, and is it coming from Grenland or somewhere else?
CCS is a prerequisite for succeeding with our ambitions to reduce the emissions, so we need to get there. I think we have some strong signals that Norcem will get money for developing the technology.
Yeah.
I hope also it goes to Klemetsrud, but if we don't get that, we have a long, long way ahead.
Well, you're only starting, so I'm going to wish you the best of luck for the continuation of the road and the roadmap, and I know that you're happy to share it with anyone who's interested. So thank you very much, Irene.
Thank you.
Now, wouldn't it be nice to be able to say, my job was to save the world and I did it? If the next speaker and his team succeeds, they might be able to say that. Rescue of Earth Materials and Waste in the Circular Economy, or abbreviated to Earth Rescue, is a Center for Research-Based Innovation, a so-called SFI. An SFI has a time span of a maximum of 8 years and can receive up to 12 million Norwegian kroner per year from the Research Council of Norway. Earth Rescue was appointed in June this year, so it's pretty fresh, and it's going to be led by NMBU, the Norwegian University of Life Sciences. And one of their industrial partners is Lindum in Drammen, a large waste management company, and for a long time committed to circular economy. Lindum's head of research and development and innovation, Thomas Hartnik, will now introduce us to Earth Rescue. And if there's time afterwards, you're more than welcome to ask questions. The code is still PROSIN and the URL is slido.com. So give it up for Thomas Hartnik.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for the invitation. I want to present this research-based center for innovation, which is called Earth Rescue. If we look on how our waste is, we produce about 14.5 million tons of waste each year. This includes contaminated soil. And if we look on how this waste is treated, we see that recycling stands for about 33%. But on the other hand, landfilling, and this includes contaminated soil, also accounts for about 33%. So how green and how circular are we really? Incineration is for about 27%. Why is this? We see that the recycling has decreased, or there's a trend at least, that it's decreased from 2009 to 2018 from 40% to 33%, while landfilling is, during the last 7 years, increased from about 20% to 33%. And this is, it seems at least, that this is due to the high activity in construction works and building, which produces a lot of demolition and construction waste that is, and also contaminated soil that is predominantly landfilled. So we have to do something. If we look on what kind of waste is landfilled, we see that the huge amount of contaminated soil is landfilled, 45%. But also a lot of construction and demolition waste like concretes and bricks, about 20% are landfilled, as well as slag and ashes and hazardous waste. So we have to do something, and it seems that, especially for the building sector, but also for the energy sector that is producing ashes and slags, that we are still following a very linear economy where the waste these sectors are producing ends up on landfills. But in order to transfer from a linear to a circular economy, we have to increase the recycling and the reuse of construction and demolition waste, of contaminated soils, of slags and ashes, and also, and this is really a big challenge, the huge amounts of clean surplus masses like soft clays, like blasted rocks, or like material from tunnel boring machines, which are produced in these construction works from roads or buildings. So we have to find a new way to treat these kind of wastes. And this is the ambition of the Earth Rescue of this Center of Innovation, to become a national, leading and international renowned center for sustainable use of wastes and earth materials. And the objectives are to develop treatment technologies for recycling and reuse of surplus masses and earth materials, to reduce the environmental footprint of landfills, to develop models and methodologies to assess the sustainability of recycled materials and treatment methods, and to develop a governance framework for the most sustainable management and treatment of wastes. The center has collected 8 research institutes dealing with the natural, social science, engineering sciences. The center also comprises of 21 user partners that are in the whole Norway, situated in the whole Norway, and it's private industries, waste handling industries, and process industries. That is municipalities and counties, and that are also big public entities that are producing, for example, a lot of contaminated soil. And there's research partners. We have NMBU at Ås, NGI, the Norwegian Geotechnical Institute, the Norwegian Institute for Biosciences, NILU as environmental institutes, and BI and Norsus, which was the former Østfoldforskning, doing a lot of the social sciences. The center is hosted at NMBU, and it's run by Professor Helen French. We have a total funding of 230 million kroners, whereas 96 million over the 8 years come from the Research Council. And we hope that 20 PhDs and 5 master students have fulfilled their degree within these 8 years. Here you see the hierarchy for the for the handling or the management of surplus masses and earth materials, where you have the most favorable solution on top and the least favorable on the bottom. And it comes, we have to try to reduce most of the waste. If we cannot reduce, we have to reuse it in other applications, recycling, backfilling, and landfilling. And we hope that the center will develop technologies for removing contaminants, because we don't want to recycle the contaminants in the masses, but we want to recycle the resources, and improving geotechnical properties in order to produce high quality, clean, and homogeneous secondary products. And this is the main task. But we also want to develop new monitoring technologies and technical solutions to reduce the environmental footprint of landfills. It's also often now that when cities are expanding, that residential areas are in close vicinity to older landfills. These older landfills were in former times situated quite at a distance to the city center, but now the cities are growing. So we have to excavate some of these landfills, and we have to find technologies to extract the resources out of the waste and to treat the waste. And we also have to deal with all the challenges, the environmental challenges like odor, like leachate that is contaminated. So this will also be a huge task of and we have to develop cost-benefit LCA models and reuse for recycling and earth materials, and value chains and business models. And these business models should also include future generations. How can we make a sustainable handling of these wastes? And last but not least, we have to develop effective economic and regulatory means and measures to increase recycling and the use of waste-based materials. And we have to build up decision support system for these means. The objectives or the centers will be situated around case studies, and these case studies are performed here in Norway. We are doing landfill mining in Bergen and in Skien. We will look at environmental impacts at landfills at Brånåsen, and we will establish treatment centers for these different waste fractions in order to produce secondary raw materials. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Thomas. I understand this is going to be a huge task that you are taking on, and unfortunately we don't have much time for questions because you had so much to tell us.
Yeah.
But I was surprised to hear about the increase in landfills. You said it was due mainly to the construction the sector.
Yeah.
But just one quick question. Are we ever going to get rid of landfills?
No, I don't think so. There's always be waste which is contaminated, for example, which we have to store in a safe manner. And these fractions we cannot recycle and reuse them. For example, when we think about contaminated soil, it's very easy, or it's good to take out the stones because the stones are clean. But there is a fine, there's a fraction that is always very contaminated, and these fractions have to be landfilled.
I'm going to have to stop you there, but thank you very much and good luck with the SFI.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Thomas. So, we have a couple of more minutes, and earlier on today we heard about Eyde Cluster having received funds for doing a mapping, and we're going to find out a little bit more about that mapping. And I'm going to invite to the stage Helene Fladmark, who's the general manager of Eyde Cluster, and Gunnar Kulia, who is a business developer, but in this capacity also a project manager for the mapping. So, Gunnar, first of all, what are you going to map?
Yeah, first of all, in this, it is the government who has given us this work to do in order to map, to see what kind of side streams do we have in the industry today, and how can we increase the utilization based on knowledge about what side streams we do have. So one part of this is to increase the value of these side streams. And the other, as also has been mentioned by several, is that we want to minimize or, if possible, eliminate the waste landfill. Hazardous waste in this industry.
Right.
So in order to do this, we need to know what are the side streams, what volumes, what do they, what is the content of the various side streams that we need to map.
And you're going to do that on a national level, if I understand it correctly.
Yeah, this is part of the government strategy. As we have heard from the politicians today, they want us to be more circular in Norway, also for the process industry. A lot of good work has been done, but there is also very important potential for the future. And we have to move, we have to do the work, but we need to know what are the details of these material streams in order to do the job.
And who do you need some assistance from in order to do this? Is this lot a natural audience for that?
Yeah, we cannot do this alone.
No.
Definitely not. We have been given this task, but we have heard today from the clusters. There is roadmaps in Grenland. There is fantastic work up in Mo, Øra. So we need to work. We need to know what has been done already in these areas, so that we can build on what has been done in those areas. And we also want to work through to the companies within the process industry, because they have also done a lot of work in these areas. So we build on what has been done, but we want and we need, and what also Katrina has presented earlier today, we need a national mapping. We need to have it in a way that we can use it both national and also in order, maybe we need to find some international solutions in order to enable this development.
I guess you have a deadline?
Yeah, we do have a deadline, but we do want to have 2 steps into this, and we are now in the final discussions with the ministry in this, because we will do the mapping in this by end of the year. But we also hope that there will be some time to do some workshops to see where could there be recommendations for areas where we see more potentials in order to go in the future, in order to increase values, but also this to eliminate the waste part of this.
So, everyone, if this guy calls you or sends you an email, be alert and be ready to participate.
Yeah, so we'll be in contact with a lot of you, and also, of course, with SINTEF, the universities, and those kind of, with expertise in these areas. So we need to do this in a coordinated way.
I'm going to wish you the best of luck with doing that, Gunnar. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And Helene, you're going to stay put just a couple of more minutes. But Helene, 2 days of PROSIN conference are nearing the end. How has it been? This is the first time that you've done it digitally and physically at the same time.
No, I think it's been a great experience, actually, and I think it's. I'm really happy that we did this, actually, because that was a discussion, and to have you here live in Strand in the hubs, and also people joining us digital. I think it's been the right thing to do. Exactly at this time now, and I think we've learned that there are really high ambitions out there, but yet realistic. I think yesterday we saw that this battery value chain that everybody's talking about, it's actually happening. Yeah. We have an opportunity and we're going to take it. the same today about this circular economy. That's been sort of a buzzword for some years, but now we see it's actually happening. We have cases like REC Solar we heard today, and also in the hubs. So I think we're actually now moving.
Yeah.
And I think it's what we learned from the politicians. They actually argued on being most eager and action-oriented, which is very, very good for us.
Yeah.
So
it's
we
a
have
momentum.
It's a momentum, and I think we're ready to go further on, and we need to do this together, as we all agree on. And I think this way of having this sort of platform for collaboration that we've done today with people everywhere, it's been really good, and I hope we can do this, continue to work like this. Because exchange views and learning how we do things in the different areas in the country, I think it's really good. For me, it's been really inspiring, so I hope everybody else has something to take back.
Yeah.
So if I may, thank you, everybody, for participating, but also especially to the partners out there, Avfall Norge, ACT, and Grenland. I think it's been really fantastic, but it wouldn't have worked if we hadn't had a really professional moderator and a really, really professional technical staff with the dog doing this as, being really perfect. So I'm really pleased that we made this through. And I would also like to give a little special thank to my people in Eyde. There's been really good work during the summer. Christina, thank you very much. And also to Stephen, Stephen for yesterday's program. So it's a teamwork, this, and I think we made it. So now it's just doing it.
Yes. Well done, and thank you, all of you, and thank you to everyone joining us, and let's just say goodbye and see you again next year.
But before next year, we have lots of things going on this autumn, and I think you should follow on PROSIN. Everything's going on there. So look into what's going on, and we'll see each other next year as well.
Thank you, and goodbye.